Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It is the 3rd of August, Monday, no less, and the start of a week after having a weekend off football. Still one match to complete the card. We'll be talking about Ross County against Motherwell in the company of Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Alison McConnell. Delighted you're all here with me. You can join us. All you have to do is like, share and, of course, follow on our Facebook page. We'd love you to join the football family, and you can subscribe absolutely free on our YouTube channel as well. Roughie, I don't know about you, I was out watching 2 games at the weekend. It's great to have Scottish football back.
Yeah, it certainly is. It just gives that wee added buzz. You know, if you're not at some of the games, you know, you're desperate on the Saturday night to catch what's happening. It's good. We're getting more and more highlights just now, obviously, with the fans not being into the grounds. But, I think any game, I wouldn't knock any game at the weekend. Obviously, they're settling in. And there was some very, very good goals.
Yeah, lots of good goals, lots of talking points to get our teeth into. Of course, we did talk about the fact that, Tam, you would be out there at Hibs TV. I was watching from the stand just to see your big Barnet through the window. Of course, the strange thing about some of the clubs, this is the only thing I find is difficult, is some clubs are just not getting the sound system correct, because Hibs suddenly started playing this crowd noise, which, when it went out for a throw-in, I thought Frank Soze had returned and hit a 40-yard screamer. The sound was so out of sync with what's happening. And then the next day at Celtic Park, it was like a well-oiled machine where they knew exactly when to put the clapping in. It's going to take a bit of work, Tam.
Yeah, I was listening. Obviously, I didn't listen to it. I was in the commentary box commentating on the game, but I heard afterwards that some of the players were, I think, chuckling on the pitch at some of the crowd noises coming out with throw-ins and shots at goal and different things. But I think Jack was very keen to get the crowd noise in. I think he liked it at Parkhead in the friendly against Hibs. Celtic played it obviously over, as you know, yesterday. They played it through the speaker, and Jack liked it. He thought it gave it more of a feel of a proper match. So that was Jack. Ross is definitely insistent on the crowd noise. I don't think it was the players. So listen, they got a good result, so they'll take it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Hibs in that match against Kilmarnock very shortly. We will discuss, of course, Celtic's win against Hamilton Accies and Rangers with that good win up at Pittodrie. Here's how the results look at the moment with still one fixture remaining. This is what happened over the weekend. It was Aberdeen 0, Rangers 1, Dundee United 1, St Johnstone 1. Hibs, of course, getting that 2-1 win. St Mirren with the solitary goal against Livingston, and Celtic emphatically putting 5 past Hamilton, 5 goals to 1 in that match. And Ross County against Motherwell is the match tonight that we can all look forward to. Of course, the Motherwell players with a chance to try and replicate what was happening last year when they finished 3rd. So as far as tonight is concerned, this is what Motherwell boss Stephen Robinson has to make of the opposition.
Ross County have signed a few players that I know. They'll be, as they always are, competitive. They'll be strong. They've got players that can win games. They've got big Ross Stewart, plays out in the wide areas, is a massive threat. And they've got Billy Mackay, who's a goal scorer. Seems to always do well against us as well. So we have to be on our guard. We have to, again, try and impose ourselves on the game and take our style of football to Ross County. But by no means will we be going there and underestimating.
Well, I've tipped Motherwell to finish 3rd, Ali. Certainly on the evidence of what I watched up at Pittodrie, I have no reason to change my mind on that. What do you make of tonight's game?
I'll be interested to see how they get on. I've tipped them to finish fairly highly too. I think I went for 4th. So I'll be interested to see. It's a difficult place to go. I think you've got a long journey up to Dingwall, and I think Ross County can always make life very sticky for opponents. But I think having seen the results that have come in from the first game, I think Motherwell just fancy they really want to get off to a good start. But it really depends on whether Ross County allow them to play or not. Really, they've got a lot of pace in that side. They've got a good bit of width now. If Ross County can negate that, then it becomes a very sticky encounter, I think.
Yeah, we might as well put up your graphic, Ali, so you can get pelters the way we've all got pelters over the weekend. There you are. Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, Motherwell, Hibs, Kilmarnock. That's your top 6. And you're like me, Ali. You think Ross County are going to come a cropper?
I think it could be difficult for them. I think there's never much between those in the bottom three and the bottom four. I think they can interchange at times. I think, but I couldn't bring myself to put Hamilton Accies to tip Hamilton Accies again for relegation. And I was glad I never when I saw Marcus Nash on and invite Shug on for the co-commentary for the last game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just about to say, Roughie didn't worry about that for about 7 years. Roughie, you were just like that. Get Accies out of the league because you didn't think they were any good.
Shocking.
But I have to. Oh, listen, Tam, he just does not care. I mean, Roughie, this year, I have to say, on the evidence of what I witnessed at Celtic Park, they played some lovely counter-attacking football as well. Some nice, slick stuff. I don't think they will be there, Roughie.
No, I haven't got them there this year either. I've got Ross County there. I thought Ross County were in free fall last year. I thought they were very fortunate when the season finished when it did. And I think they would have ended up bottom of the league. I really did. They've added a few players, but I don't think that'll be good enough. As far as Hamilton's concerned, seem to have a lot of young boys at the weekend, full of enthusiasm, want to try and impress, and you saw that in certain parts of the game. But again, defensively, they were dire, and it was the same last year as well. Some of the goals they were losing were just, they were all preventable. They just had no leadership at the back. And again, not taking anything away from Celtic, I just thought they were very naive at the back, Hamilton. But as Brian Rice said after the game, they won't be judged against Celtic. They'll be judged against the other teams down at the bottom.
Yeah, this is what the Hamilton boss, Brian Rice, had to say about that 5-1 loss to Celtic.
Disappointed, obviously, to lose 5 goals. I don't think we made Celtic work too hard to score the goals. Every goal came from a wide area. Things we'd worked on in training, and we worked on getting Celtic into wide areas, but then stopping the crosses or defenders when they come into the box. But we've never done that. So a bit of naivety. But listen, it's dead easy to come here and be very critical of my boys playing out on that pitch against the champions. Got a young team out there. There are plenty of positives, and that's what I'll be dwelling on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are positives to take from it, Tam, because I was impressed with a number of the Accies players and the way they went about their business. And of course, Brian said afterwards that he's going to try and continue to play that way.
Yeah, I was impressed with Hamilton. I think 5-1. Listen, I thought Celtic were very, very good going forward. They could have scored a couple of more goals, but Hamilton could have had a couple of goals as well. But I think we spoke about in the show before. I worked with Chipper at Falkirk. He's not going to lie down to anybody. He's not going to park the bus against anybody, and they will take a few doons this season because of the way Chipper wants to play. He wants to play in the front foot. He wants to attack, whether that's at Celtic or Rangers or anywhere. They got a great result, obviously, just before the lockdown at Ibrox. So I think I was quite impressed with Hamilton. I thought they played well. As Roughie was saying, they've got a lot of young boys in their team. Maybe need to get a couple of bits of experience in to help them out. I thought they looked pretty naive across the back. The two centre backs in particular. But they're playing against a real quality striker in Edouard, so they're not going to come up against him every week. So if I was a Hamilton Accies fan, watching that game yesterday, I would be, I'd be taking the positives and a wee bit of encouragement from the way they played, even though the result was 5-1. I thought Hamilton played well.
Yeah, on YouTube, Lee McManus says Hamilton will be fine this season. They did well in the first half. William Gibson says no fans didn't seem to be a problem. And of course, over and above that, Joseph Byrne just says this is the Celtic show because whoever you talk about first is usually what everybody starts caning you for. Nevertheless, listen, if Frank McAvenny suddenly comes up and said that Odsonne Edouard looked disinterested, Ali, I'd hate to see him when he's really interested, would you?
I mean, he really put down a marker yesterday, I think, and I don't think his reputation is going to be enhanced anyway by scoring a hat-trick against Hamilton Accies. No disrespect to Accies, but I think what you're seeing is a player who's on the up all the time. He looks like a classy player who's capable of going on to the top level, but I know we keep coming back to it, but with the transfer window open now until October, I think I just would not be surprised if there's a bid that comes in for him at some point before the window closes. I just think you don't play like that and have the kind of temperament and the goals that he has, the age he is, without attracting attention from elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, Alison, because I did ask him after the game as well. I mean, Edouard gets the hat-trick, and I think key to it all, Neil Lennon wants to hold on to Edouard, but he was so glowing in his praise of Odsonne Edouard.
It's too early to say. I think he's got the potential to be anything he wants to be, really. You know, his all-round game, he's a fantastic player. I've worked with different types. Obviously, Hooper's a great goal scorer. Griffiths is a great goal scorer. You know, I worked with Heskey towards the end of his career and played with him at the start, but he's up there with any of them, no question. And he keeps rewriting, you know, his own sort of story here at the minute.
Roughie, he was impressive. I mean, even the ball into his feet, he brings other people into play. And when he's got you squared up, I mean, he can go either way. He's just, I mean, he just looks at ease. He's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, he must be a nightmare defender. Yeah, he's the striker who switches off. You don't think he looks interested. You don't think he's going to get involved. Then at the last minute, he's got that sharpness, you know, to be half a yard ahead of the defender, particularly in the last goal he scored, you know. But it's the delivery into the box as well. If he gets that kind of delivery all year, he will score more than 30 goals because he's got something others haven't. He reads a situation and he finds himself in places that other strikers don't find them in. And that's the knack that he's got. And the finishing that he had was just sublime. There was no effort behind it at all. It was just being in the right place at the right time, or making yourself be in the right place at the right time, and that's what he's good at.
Yeah, a big hi to John Strelecki, who's watching us in Turkey. Thank you for your support, John. Mary's in Millport. Thank you to you, Mary. Jim McAloon, a little bit closer to home. Also, we've got Jim McCafferty. Jim, thanks for following us. And Alison, as ever, one of our top fans. So many people joining the football family. Like, share and follow. Of course, over and above the fact that Odsonne Edouard is top man for Celtic in all the papers this morning. The speculation is, well, how many more players does he need? Certainly on the evidence that I watched over the 90 minutes, I still think he needs a few players. The manager himself quantified it.
Maybe 2 or 3, you know, just to add you know, we haven't really, we lost a lot of players, you know, 7 or 8, you know, in the close season. You know, Moy was already here, so we've only brought really one in extra, and that's Vassilis. So in terms of the playing pool, we'd like to add maybe 2 or 3 more if we can.
Yeah, 2 or 3 more. Now, Tam, I was trying to scratch my head. Definitely a striker. Almost certainly a centre-half. I was going to say a creative player, but there's 3 or 4 good midfielders sitting on the bench waiting to come on, and he's slowly but surely blooding Karamoko in as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Peter. I think he needs a centre-back. I thought Celtic were a wee bit shaky at times at the back yesterday, the 2 centre-backs, Ayer and Julian. I thought the big Hamilton strikers at Ogpombe, I think he caused them all sorts of problems in the first half. So I think he needs a bit more competition, and then he's a striker. I think Bayo will be out the door. I think there's obviously rumours that St Mirren are interested in getting him on loan. I don't think he's good enough for Celtic. I think he'll be away on loan. And you've got Klimala, who, listen, I'm not a big fan of, but to be fair, if he keeps coming on and scoring goals, he'll certainly change my mind, because he came on yesterday and great running behind and a great finish, and that's what he's got to do every time he gets an opportunity. Klimala, he's got to come on and try and score, because there's great competition in there. Obviously, Griffiths coming back to fitness, and I think Celtic, as you say, they'll sign another one. So they've got plenty of options, you know, in the middle of the park as well. So I don't think they need anything in there. Wide areas, they're good. I mean, the 2 fullbacks yesterday, Peter, were exceptional. You know, Taylor put 2 great balls in for the goals, right across. You know, couldn't miss. Right in the great areas, and Frimpong on the other side. You know, because Hamilton Accies, obviously, Celtic, the 2 came in, Forrest and Elanusi came into the park, you know, inside, and it made a big room for down the flanks for the 2 fullbacks, and they caused Hamilton problems all day. So a striker, Peter, and a centre-half for me for Celtic.
Yeah, if anything, Roughie, he played a...
I was going to say, Peter, did anybody ask the question about Griffiths? Is Griffiths injured? Has he picked up an injury?
He picked up an injury.
He's injured again, is he? Yeah. That's a sore one for him, you know.
Yeah, he twisted his foot, Roughie. I mean, they played a 4-4-2 yesterday, Roughie. They'll probably switch once they get another centre-half into going to 3-5-2 as well. You know, he's flexible on that. My only concern on this, and I'll get your thoughts on this as well, Alison, Roughie, is... You know, the boy Taylor has waited. He's been biding his time. His crosses were exceptional. My only concern with him, and this goes back to the Martin O'Neill days, is my only concern is his height. And I hate to even raise that thorny subject, but the 2 fullbacks are not the tallest. And I think, you know, at times, unless they get 3 commanding, physical centre-halves, I think they could come a cropper at times.
They will come a cropper. You even saw it yesterday. I think sensible managers will identify that the two full-backs like to bomb forward. And when they bomb forward, there's an area you can really work in. And if you really get really quality, particularly in European football, that's where Celtic's downfall is. The full-back's going forward and there's no cover there at all, and people exploit that. And it is just part and parcel of the game. You've got to accept that they want to go forward, and you get the benefit of them going forward, which is fantastic. But on the other side, as you said, if you've not got at least three centre-halves prepared to cover that area, and it's the same with Rangers as well. They get it with Tavernier. You know, when he bomb forwards, people just float balls into that area. And it's up for me. It's the responsibility of the other defenders to cover for these guys bombing forward, and it's their job to cut that out.
Yeah, just talking about Rangers up at Pittodrie for the early kickoff to get us all going on this Saturday. Tam, I actually at one point I wondered if Aberdeen had won a competition just to play in the game because Rangers had that much of the ball. It was embarrassing at one point. I mean, Rangers just dominated them, and Kent's goal was just calmness personified.
Yeah, it was. Listen, I couldn't catch the second half. I was obviously getting ready for the Hibs game, but I watched the first half, and Rangers were comfortable. You know, I spoke to a few people. I've seen the highlights, and I think it was a very routine 1-0 win. And listen, a lot of people. I'll speak about Rangers first. Maybe say the Rangers didn't play that great, but listen, it's a be-all and end-all this season for Rangers just to win games. Just win. Get on the bus, get back down the road with a win in the pocket. And they went up there and they got the win. You know, good ball from Morelos. Kent gets through, and it was strange because I thought he was going to take it with his right foot. And he kind of switched it at the last minute and tucked it away with his left foot. It was really clever. It was a class finish for Ryan Kent. And he's got to do that every week. You know, there's a big outlay from Rangers. I think he's an extremely talented player. But his consistency wasn't his strong point last season. So Rangers, Steven Gerrard, Rangers fans will be looking for him to produce that type of finish every week. But in terms of Aberdeen, listen, I heard they were very, very poor. And, you know, I don't know, you know, sitting back at home, you know, with the fans, if the fans were there, they wouldn't have played like that. I think the fans would have rode them on and got on their backs to go forward. So I think it was maybe easier with no fans for Aberdeen to sit so deep and try and play in the counter-attack. But by all accounts, in the second half, Aberdeen never threatened at all, and Rangers were very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it was only when he made substitutions that they actually looked as if they were up for a game. But I'm going to cut Derek some slack because it's first game of the season. He was without Sam Cosgrove, Curtis Main, couple of new players in there. You know, not that Johnny Hayes needs to settle down with Aberdeen, but listen, not a great start. I was far from impressed with them. I was impressed with suddenly this partnership, Leon Balogun. He, the Nigerian, fitted in really well and made them look a more solid outfit, Rangers at the back, Alison.
They looked very comfortable considering he'd just arrived and just come in, and you think, well, if you can play like that in your debut, it's a portent maybe of what's to come from him for the remainder of the season. And I think Rangers have been crying out for a player like that, to be honest. I think it augurs well for them going forward. But like you, I thought Aberdeen were very flat and very disappointing. I agree with the point that when you take fans out the stadium, the game is missing a real kind of tension that would have been there otherwise. And I honestly don't think you can overlook the influence of Sam Cosgrove. I think if you've got someone like that you can get the ball up to, you can build your game plan around it. I think it was a huge loss, but I just thought it was very flat. Just the game just seemed to just pass Aberdeen by entirely.
Yeah, just one thing, Tam. Did you? I don't know about you, but I thought Morelos was carrying a few pounds.
Yeah, he didn't look the sharpest. I've seen the first half, and you know he didn't look very sharp and mobile. He's usually puts himself about. He done well for the goal. Nice wee ball through, clever. But he wasn't quite at his best, and I think Morelos is a player who needs to be playing every week, and I think maybe in 4 or 5 games' time he'll start to really hit his stride, but he's maybe still got a wee bit to go fitness-wise. He needs to play 90 minutes every week, and once he does that, you'll see a much improved player. But certainly from the bits I've seen, he put himself about, and he looked as if he was trying 100%. So I don't think you can accuse him of not trying anything. He gave his all, but Yeah, I think he's got maybe a wee bit to go in terms of fitness.
I don't think anybody's accusing him of not trying, Roughie. I think the point here is Tam's saying 4 or 5 games and he'll hit his stride. 4 or 5 games from now he'll need to hit. He might be hitting his stride in French football.
Yeah, he seemed to have a different role at the weekend. It looked as if he was coming short and linking up. You know, that seemed to be the game plan. You know, him coming short and Kent going by him with his pace. But just when you're saying there that I wonder what it'd be like maybe 30 odd years ago if Andy Ritchie and Tony Higgins had started the new season and somebody had said, "Oh, I think he's put on a few pounds." They don't look as if they're in shape.
No, exactly.
So it just shows you, we're all eyeing people's weight now. We're really looking at how thin they are. That's the modern day.
Well, absolutely. I know what it's like to put on a few pounds, Roughie, and I looked at him and I thought, he's put on a few pounds. It's as simple as that. Anyway, apart from anything else, Rangers got the win, which was the all-important thing. Lots of people commenting on that. Niall Kane is a big Motherwell fan, says, can't wait to see Declan Gallagher playing his first game tonight as Motherwell captain, a true leader in the heart of the Motherwell defence. And obviously he's mentioned that Declan did mention it on Friday, that he was hoping that he could first and foremost play well for Motherwell, and if that leads to more international recognition, then all well and good. So I certainly hope Declan Gallagher can replicate some of the form that he did last season as well. Lots to talk about. Give us your thoughts on it. Like, share and follow us as well to give us your thoughts on your team across our Facebook. You can like, share and follow, and on YouTube you can subscribe as well. Thanks for the great numbers we're getting watching the programme. Don't hesitate to give us a hard time if there's a point that you don't like. Just make sure you put it across nicely. The other thing here, apart from obviously Rangers against Aberdeen and Celtic against Hamilton, was indeed that match you were at. I don't know about you, Tam, but I like Martin Boyle. I think he's star man again this season.
Yeah, he was a difference on Saturday, Peter. His pace in behind. I spoke about it before the game. I think it was a masterstroke to play him through the middle. You know, Kurt Broadfoot and Stuart Finlay was the two centre-backs for Kilmarnock, and both good experienced players, but not the quickest. And it was definitely an avenue that Hibs were trying to exploit, and they got the goal straight away. 4 minutes into the game, the goalkeeper makes young goalkeeper making his debut, Eastwood. He comes out flying out his goal, and he makes it a little bit easier for Boyle, but he still shows a composure. That he's not always been known for that composure. But he brought it back onto his right-hand side and fired it in the net, and then great goal maybe 10 minutes later, shifts it and then hits it in the bottom corner. So Boyle was a difference, because to be honest with you, Kilmarnock were excellent. I mean, they really were good. They deserved at least a share of the spoils, and I don't mind saying that as an ex-Hibs player. I said that after the game. I thought Kilmarnock were very unlucky. And saying that, the three centre-backs, Porteous, Hanlon, were outstanding, and Paul McGinn, who eventually moved out to the right back, but the three centre-backs were outstanding for Hibs, and they had to be, because Chris Burke was excellent on the right-hand side. Ross Millen, they must have put in 30 or 40 crosses for that right-hand side. And Hibs header, there was a Hibs head on it all day. So they defended strongly. They seen the game out. But if I was a Kilmarnock fan, and I was, obviously, not many of them were tuning in, but if I was a Kilmarnock fan, and I certainly would be losing heart, because Kilmarnock were excellent and the better side for long spells in the game.
Yeah, big apologies to lots of Kilmarnock fans for Tam's inaccuracy there. He said not many of them would be tuning in. None of them were tuning in because your mob didn't allow them the chance to tune in. So
that's well above my pay grade, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, apart from anything else, then to wait for the highlights, I was impressed with them. Listen, Alison, it's one of those great lessons for footballers. If you are going to do something and add something to your game, you have to practice it. And Chris Burke, after the game, said to me, it's something I practice, and boy, did he score an absolute raker of a free kick. I mean, it was unstoppable.
I like Chris Burke a lot. I think I actually spoke to him a few months back, and I was so impressed with him about how he's changed his diet and the dedication that he gives to his professionalism and to his game to get the best out of himself as he goes into the latter stages of his career. I think he experimented with different kind of foods, like bringing in more vegetables, more plant-based food, different smoothies, staying behind, doing extra training, making sure he's in his bed for things like 9 o'clock every night. And this is what you don't see when you talk about football and footballers. This is the aspect that you don't see, the sacrifices that go in day to day. so that you're capable of still playing and performing at a high level when you go into that stage of your career. But I think he'll be huge for Kilmarnock this year again. I think he's a big player for them.
Sounds like Roughie's diet.
Well, I was just about to say, Roughie, I
say.
think we need to eat more plants. We need to start eating smoothies and drinking them and going to bed early, Roughie. I know you go to bed early, but we need to do that more often, Roughie.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to wonder. I mean, I'm not hiding it, but after every training session at Firhill on a Friday, we used to get into Jack and Ellie's and we had maybe a milkshake and a bacon and egg roll. You know, it was standard practice. That's what you did on a Friday after training. I mean, it just shows you how things have changed. It's just crazy.
Roughie, I always remember there's a great interview when Jimmy Greaves signed for Chelsea, Tam, and Terry Venables says about 12 o'clock before the game at 3, the two of them went out to celebrate him signing for Chelsea, and they had steak and chips. And Jimmy Greaves still went out and scored on his debut for Chelsea. I mean, he scored on his debut for every club he played for. I mean, how Roughie summed it up. How times have changed. Everybody in the footballing game, they're just watching what they're putting into their bodies.
Yeah, they are.
And they're getting the benefit of it as well. You just have to see them. You know, they're so sharp, they're so quick. You know, they are genuine athletes. I think any of them could go to any big event, you know, and compete at any level because that's what their bodies are. You know, and it's just fantastic.
Peter, I actually felt sorry for the young goalkeeper, young Kilmarnock goalkeeper on Saturday. I think he took off at half time. Eastwood, he had a poor mistake for the goal, and he had a good save. So he took off at half time. And to be honest, there was a wee bit of the good, bad, and ugly about him.
Yeah, well, can I just say something to you? Jake Eastwood was taken off. I did ask Alec Dyer about that, and we get your pun, but it's not worth actually dwelling on, Tam, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, I mean, if you're going to come in with pre-prepared gags, you're on the wrong show. This show's not for you, Tam. We don't want to make you actually write down your funny gags so people start booking you again. But anyway, apart from everything else. Listen, if you can come back to the point, which is quite simply, he was taken off for an injury. I mean, that might be Alec Dyer just maybe trying to protect him, but who knows? But nevertheless, anyway, apart from anything else, Kenny says, funny how you all say that Hamilton played well and they weren't poor. Kenny, are you suggesting for a minute that suddenly we're trying to take anything away from Rangers and their performance up there? And what you've got to do on the programme, and we advise you to do this, is try and have a collective look. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Look at the game and tell us what you think. If anybody thinks Aberdeen were good up at Pittodrie, then by all means, speak now or forever hold your peace. We thought they were poor. Rangers went up there. Stephen Gerrard said, got to go up there, do a job, get the goals and put down a marker. And that's exactly what Rangers did on the Saturday. Put down a marker in a difficult place, win the game, take the 3 points, on to the next game. So, Kenny, you've got to actually look at things and stop thinking that there's an agenda anywhere. Because if anybody watched Kilmarnock, if anybody watched, I beg your pardon, Hamilton, Tam, Hamilton had 3 stonewall chances to score in the first half against Celtic.
Yep. Every time Hamilton went forward in the first half, I thought it looked dangerous, which you wouldn't really expect that, to be honest, with Celtic Park, but they really caused Celtic problems. And unfortunately, as Roughie said earlier, they were dreadful at the back. Hamilton defended poorly. But going forward, they look as if they can cause anybody problems. They just need to tighten up at the back. They've got a few young boys back there, so maybe an experienced centre-half. Maybe Chipper can go and get and just to give them a wee hand back there, because I think Hamilton would be a good bet for both teams to score every week, because they do a lot of attacking and they're very leaky at the back. So interesting to see how they go on.
Yeah, I was disappointed that St Mirren announced today that they are letting Gus McPherson go. That's something that's a little bit worrying, because obviously cutbacks, you don't want to see someone lose their job. I like Gus. I've got a lot of time for him. He's been on the programme more than a few occasions. So I'm absolutely gutted to see him go. As far as St Mirren are concerned, I mean, a 1-0 win for St Mirren. Richard Tate scoring on his debut. Why? I couldn't work out for the life of me, Roughie. how Richard Tate was actually in the penalty box when he's playing as a fullback for St Mirren, but he got the goal and he took it well. Yeah, there's no point in talking to Roughie because he's just back with us. Yeah,
sorry,
I'm just saying.
I heard you. I think he was caught up there because it was a corner. I think that was one of the good things. I think he just stayed, and you have to say the delivery was good that came into the box. But again, I'm sure the defenders will be looking at themselves to saying, how did he get so much room? But no, all credit to him for being in the right place at the right time. You can see the joy in his face, and I was surprised when Motherwell let him go. I thought he was a right winner in any side, and I'm sure St Mirren will now get the benefit of it. I'm sure the guys were talking about them. St Mirren were always pretty solid at the back, and again, they looked solid there. And if they can get other people in forward positions to score goals, I don't think they'll have a problem this year at all.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, top six, Tam. I notice your predictions. Yeah. Oh, yeah, just try and milk it keep the fans in with you and Paisley. But nevertheless, I do like Jim Goodwin, what he's doing there. As Roughie said, Tam, maybe before this window closes, they might be able to get some kind of attacking option if Bio is on a deal from Celtic.
I think that'd be a great signing for St Mirren. To be honest with you, Bio would be a good signing. Listen, I don't think he's going to be good enough for Celtic, going forward. But he can certainly come out and do a job. Big boy, physical, running behind, can score a goal. So I think he'd be a great signing for St Mirren. It'd be good for Celtic as well to get him out and get him some games because, he's well behind the pecking order in terms of Edward and Klamala now and Griffiths. So it would suit both for him to come out. And St Mirren fans, I think, would be delighted with that as well. And I think that's Roughie said that. St Mirren are always, they're not a clean sheet on Saturday. They're very, very tough to break down and hard to beat. And if they can just find somebody to get them 15 goals and give a beaker a hand up there, I really expect them to push up into that top six.
Yeah, Lee on YouTube says Bio needs to play, and I'm sure he realises that himself, that he needs to go out there and get game time. And Bob says, Peter, is Derek McInnes under pressure? Last season was awful. Saturday was worse. Ali, is Derek McInnes? I think he's going to be under pressure if it continues in this vein because he doesn't have the same, I don't know, family feel about Stuart Milne and Derek. Looked as if it was unbreakable, the bond. Dave Cormack, I'm not so sure.
I would agree. I think he will be under pressure. I think if things start slipping away, you really do expect Aberdeen to be the third force. And I think if it slips, I think there will be questions asked. And I think it's inevitable given part of it is the fact that he did do so well. And I think there were points where you could argue he was maybe punching above what the capabilities were at one point a few seasons back. But yeah, I do. I think it's inevitable. I think what would have been a source of concern on Saturday was the lack of appetite for a game of that magnitude. It's not what you would have come to expect from a Rangers Aberdeen game up at Pittodrie. And I do take the point that it's a different thing entirely when there's no fans in there, but I just thought it seemed very gutless. It seemed like a soulless performance, and I think that would be a concern.
Yeah, Roughie, Dundee United and St Johnstone, it was an absolute raker of a goal from the PFA chairman, Liam Craig. I might as well mention that just to keep him happy, but it was a good goal for the equaliser. United getting off to a flyer with the penalty. I still think, early days, but I'm curious to see how the players that we're looking at, the players that have had a pedigree in the lower leagues can step up. The likes of a Shanklin, Nicky Clark as well, although he's played, albeit limited in the Premiership, but also Kevin Nisbet at Hibs. I'm curious to see how they make the step up.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Dundee United down there, bottom three for most of the season. I don't think there was a lot of evidence of that at the weekend. I think the manager would have expected them to kick on after the sending off. It didn't materialise. I think it went the opposite way. I think St Johnstone were the better side after the sending off. And Lawrence Shanklin did have a chance to make it 2-0. And it's maybe a chance he would have scored last year. Did particularly well, got the ball out his feet, went by a couple of defenders. And 9 times out of 10 he would have hit the target and probably scored. So that's maybe a learning curve for him. But, I think Dundee United will always compete down at the bottom. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they come up against, say, the top three. That maybe be a better judge in where they're going to end up.
Yeah, I know a lot of people cover this programme to see what kind of gear we're all wearing, if there's a mad haircut, if somebody's done something crazy, you know, at the start of last season, you know, Tam came in as if they were making Train Spotting 3. But Roughie, there's quite a lot of people concerned about my health and whether I'm coughing a lot. I don't know about you, Roughie, but I think you need to get soothers. I've been buying them a lot. I know you've got that wee niggly coffee. Or soothers would help that immensely, Roughie.
Yeah, I've noticed at all. I've been more aware of that, you know. I do like just cleared my throat, but
well, of course,
I haven't
but
had
we
a
can hear
cough.
it. Yeah,
You know, I'm
so
not had a cough at all.
A lot of people worried about your health, Roughie. You know what they're like. They always look at you as you're the housewife's favourite, Roughie. Tam is the little irritating guy. That's like a paper. Tam's a paper cut. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't look as if it seems like much, but it's irritating all the time, which is great having him on the programme. And Alison is just the joy to have in our team because, quite simply, Alison, the amount of misogynistic morons that you managed to ignite on our Facebook and YouTube is magnificent. So you've got a bit of
Welcome
edge
to
there
my
as well,
life.
Ali. Yeah, well, I was going to say that, Ali. Welcome to your life, indeed. Incidentally, so great. Anyway, apart from anything else, Roughie's okay. Don't worry about it. So Dundee United, you've got them going down there, Roughie, St Johnstone as well. I'll be happy with the point. I'm curious to see how Callum Davison's side just starts to evolve over the course of this. If you're a Saints fan, give us your thoughts on what he's doing, his signings, how you think they're going to fare. But there's lots to look forward to over the course of the week and, of course, the weekend as well. I noticed Steven Gerrard, Tam, says Rangers haven't given up on the Leverkusen tie. I suppose a manager would say that. Let's be blunt about it. Can you see Rangers, and this is where he's made his name, I think over the last couple of years, can you see Rangers going and providing us all with the biggest shock, I think, since he arrived?
Probably not. I wouldn't write off the tie completely, but Rangers have been excellent, particularly away from home. They can hit in the counter-attack, and they're certainly caused Bayer Leverkusen problems, but I just think Bayer Leverkusen will have a little bit too much in terms of quality. They looked a real slick outfit at Ibrox, and I just think they'll have too much, but I certainly wouldn't write the game off. I wouldn't be chucking it. The first goal's massive in the game, Peter. If Rangers get the first goal, you know, Bayer Leverkusen could wobble. You know, there's absolutely no doubt about it. So, first goal's huge. If Bayer Leverkusen get it, the tie's dead. But if Rangers get it, then they'll fancy the job.
Yeah, good news, Ali, that we've got Aberdeen, Motherwell, who'll be seeded in the first qualifying round. Rangers come in at the second qualifying round in the new Europa League setup, and because of our coefficient ever improving, we've got clubs that at least will be seeded and might have a chance of getting to the next stage. You know, albeit these qualifying rounds is usually where most of our clubs always come a cropper.
It would be amazing to have a few representatives in the group stages. I think Motherwell twice have got to that very last step. They've got to the playoff stage and then went out. I don't think they've ever made it into the group stages before in their history. It would be huge. It's huge for Scottish football. By that point too, you're thinking you might be allowed fans back into stadia too. It's enormous for fans, it's enormous for clubs, it's enormous for players, and the more representatives and the more points you can pick up are crucial, because you have to remember too that when you have participants in the group stages, it all counts towards the coefficient going forward, and it can be very damaging if you go out at the first stage. It really does batter it going forward. So you need as many of your representatives to go as far as you can in the tournament and keep sustaining this push towards moving up the coefficient table, because I think the performances last year Rangers elevated Scotland to a level that I think few of us would have anticipated at this stage, given the climb that they went on, and it's massive. If you can, you know yourself how difficult it is to go through that qualification process and get into, for Celtic this season, the potential to get into the Champions League. It's huge. If you can make that journey, facilitate it a bit easier by reducing the amount of qualifiers, or even getting to a stage where you have automatic qualification again, it's massive. It really is massive.
Absolutely, here. And of course, I think the other aspect of the Scottish football, now that it's started and we can stop the bickering, although I am going to talk about a little bit of bickering, Roughie, which concerns your club, there's a lot of people starting to take interest. We've got a good window here where English football is not going to be the centre of attention, albeit it'll be a small window, but it's a chance for us to get more and more people answering their mobile phone while we're talking. And also, it's a chance to get the focus on our game and be more positive about it, I have to say. It's great. I mean, I read today that have you got your Fisher-Price toys with you, Tam, and they're going off at the moment?
It's not me. It's not me.
Is it not you? It's got to be Roughie.
No.
It's definitely Roughie.
No,
She's got
Roughie with that.
No, well, there you are.
Me.
Would you believe it?
Right.
Alison has got the alert on there. Alison is guilty. I can tell by her face. Anyway, apart from
Come on,
apart from
Alison.
else,
Come on, Alison. Blame the kids.
Come on, we're in the middle of
kids.
transfer
That's
window.
the way,
Come
yeah.
on, transfer window stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's an alert. Somebody's signed, Ali. Yeah, absolutely.
Money
listen,
never sleeps.
No, exactly. Hey, Tam, listen, that used to be the
freelance.
bread and butter when we were on, many of the radio and television. That was, you had to get stories, especially in transfer window. I remember, Roughie, we were waiting up to 12 o'clock midnight, chasing stories and going out to grounds where players were signing right at the death.
I remember telling James Sanderson I was going to sign for Hibs at 12 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I told him to keep it under his hat, and it was out at 1:30.
That's the nature of it. Absolutely. I mean, rule number one, you can't sit in a story, and there's Ali just checking there just to make sure that the big deal hasn't been done. Has it been done, Alison?
No.
No. Okay, that's fine. That's good enough. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, apart from that, Roughie, I'm going to mention this. I was going to just say quickly, Tam, as well as you doing Hibs TV, there's lots of people coming back to our game who've been associated with it before. I thought it was a nice touch, that story I read this morning. Clive Tilsley's going to be on Rangers TV. I mean, Graham Souness will be back. Good to see Walter back. I think Walter is sorely missed. I always like to hear what Walter has to say. He's been on our show. It's good to see big names starting to focus on the game again. We just need to come out of the COVID, come out of the slump, and start to see our game on the up again.
Yeah, I think it just shows you the importance of this. When you go, it just shows you the importance of this season. It just shows you that everybody wants.
Yeah, listen, Tam. See if Roughie's got an opinion. Just check your terms of your contract. You've just got to shut it, Tam. That's what he's saying. Yeah, listen.
No, on you go, Tam.
Roughie.
It's good, Tam, to get to see bigger people coming back.
Yeah, Clyde Tilsley's a massive name. He
did that. He's at it.
No, Tilsley's a huge name. To attract him up to Rangers is tremendous. Graham Souness, Walter Smith, I think Neil McCann's in there, Alec Ray. So, listen, they've got guys who've played at the highest level in there, working on their TV, and I think it's great for all the clubs, to have their own TV, and they're all putting a lot of effort in. I know the effort that's been into Hibs has been phenomenal in terms of the production and everything. It's really, really slick, and I'm sure it'll be the same with other clubs as well. So, it's great to see, and I think fans would rather give their own clubs the money than the likes of Sky and BT. So, maybe going forward the next few years, you might find that the club TVs are really, really important, and a lot of supporters start buying into that instead of buying a package with Sky.
Yeah, I can hear Roger Mitchell going, something I suggested all those years ago, and suddenly you're all embracing it. Of course, you're embracing it, Tam, because it's another wedge, and he's just rolling in. He's rolling in the checks, Roughie, and just stuffing them as many as he can down there. That's the nature of the game right now. Roughie, what about your mob, Thistle? Because Hearts and Partick Thistle not happy at the arbitration panel publishing the judgment. Clearly a bit of unrest there. They wanted some of the details kept private. Didn't happen. It was out there. We knew you were going to be relegated. And then over and above that, this week again, Roughie, I think it could be a double whammy for you guys, because there could be a fine coming up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. I thought it was disappointing the timing of when it came out, obviously during the arbitration, but that's just part and parcel of what's been happening. So this whole thing's kicked in. So no, it will be interesting. But as you know, Peter, we don't have to worry about what the fine's going to be, because we have somebody who's going to pay everything for us. So that's not a major problem. So as I said, 9 times out of 10, we'll move on and can consolidate now. We've signed up all the players. Everybody's ready to go. Colley's been able to bring in another couple of players. So, again, we'll just have to take if it's 5,000, 10,000, whatever it is, at this moment in time. We've said we're going to move on, so we'll move on. But it remains to be seen what kind of fine we get.
Yeah, lots of people saying, Bob says Aberdeen were ranked rotten on Saturday, but have been for 3 seasons. Ninth Legion says they need to financially back Derek McInnes. I'm not sure he's got the money to financially back them to the tune that Derek McInnes would certainly like, but it's going to be interesting to see how Aberdeen fare over the course of this season. I'm certainly not impressed with them. I think they've got a bit to go, and we'll see that. I'm going to try and get out to as many games as possible, Alice, and that's the bread and butter of it, is actually going. I think it's key, and Tam will know this from watching Hibs, but I think it's key, Alison, getting out there to see as many of the teams as possible, to get a real flavour of the strengths and the weaknesses of them. It's good to see the entire pitch and go to the game. We're very lucky at the moment.
It feels like a privilege, I think, to be back inside a football ground and working at a time when so many people can't. And I think some folk, I'm sure, would give their right arm at the minute to be back inside and watching their team. So it feels like a very privileged position to be entitled to go in and do your job and to see games after 4 or 5 months without it.
Yeah, can't wait to see the predictor for tomorrow, Tam, because we've all been predicting. Did anybody get a correct score, Roughie? Did you look at anything else?
I thought I didn't. No, I thought I did reasonably well. I think not correct score, but I think I did reasonably well. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what I had now, but I had a Hibs win, I had a Rangers win, I had a Celtic win. I think I had a Dundee United draw, and I had Motherwell to win 1-0 tonight.
Yeah, I think I had Celtic, Rangers and Hibs to win their matches, Roughie, as well. I had Dundee United to defeat St Johnstone, which didn't materialise. And I also had St Mirren to win in that match against Livingston. So I think I might have about 8 points, Tam. And then I've got Motherwell to win tonight.
Yep. I think you've done well. I think I've done very well. I don't know exactly what I picked, but I think I got a couple of correct scores, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that right?
I could be out in front. Yeah. I think I said 1-0 to St Mirren.
Yeah, see, this is
so he's probably getting the same.
No, this is the downfall with this competition, Tam. If you don't write them down, you think you have done particularly well, then you find out you've only got 2 points.
Well, do you want me to tell you something? Having witnessed you for the last 9 years, we have written them down. So we're going to do it every week religiously, Alison, because Roughie, his skullduggery is famous over the last 7 or 8 years. The loser takes us all out for a meal. What more can you ask for, Ali, when it comes to football? The loser takes us all out for a meal.
Just going out for a meal still feels like a novelty again, I think.
I'm just wondering if our honourable colleague, who's no longer with us, will be taking up where he finished this year. I'm sure he will. Will.
Yeah, I don't think we.
He'll cook us something in the staunch cave.
Yeah, well. To be fair, he's been bombed off the WhatsApp group, and he shall not be named.
Is he?
I feel no, don't be so silly. Don't be so stupid, you.
You'd never burn him. You love him. You still love him.
Yeah, of course he is. You don't lose your friends, by the way. Get to grips with yourself. Of course, it's
you don't lose your friends, but you get your photo taken off the board.
I noticed that today.
Did you want me to keep it up?
Ruthless.
For God's sake, that's absolutely ruthless. Tam, if you decide Hibs is your work for 5 days a week, Your Fazog will be coming off this studio wall, by the way, quicker than you can see Hibs TV. We have to get it down. He's gone to Sleepy Hollow. He goes with our best wishes. Now, listen, thanks to the thousands of people who are obviously mentioning that they are joining us, they're liking, they're sharing our programme. We really are delighted that you're doing that. Join the football family. We'll get some fantastic prizes coming up as well that you can win on our programme on Facebook. Like, share and follow, and you can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel as well. The figures are fantastic that we've got across all our social media. So let's not forget, if you actually download the app as well, you'll get all the news, Scottish, English, world football at your fingertips, and all the unique video content as well. And it'll also take you straight through to our sponsors if you were looking for a car at Arnold Clark. So it's all there for you, joining us across our website, our app, and of course YouTube and Facebook. And we are on Periscope Live on Twitter as well. We've covered all bases on this in the 21st century, and there's signings to come as well. Tam's got a wee wry smile on his face because he knows we are out there at the moment negotiating with agents. The king is dead. Long live the king is what we say, Ali. As one goes, another one's got to come in and fill the boots. Is that fair?
It is indeed. I just wonder who else might be looking for a new king before the window closes in October. I think Morelos and Edward will both attract interest before we see the curtain come down.
Do you know, here's my gut feeling on this. This is a great shout. Of the two, Alison, when we get to the window closing, who do you think will still be in the Scottish Premiership?
Possibly Edward, potentially Edward. If Celtic maybe make him an offer to stay, he may be inclined to hang around for one more season. But we're guessing, aren't we? It all comes down to who does come in, what the offer is that's put on the table. Do you feel as though it's a once in a career time chance to go elsewhere? Is it too enticing to turn down? These are things that none of us can answer. I think we know that Celtic would love him to stay, but ultimately, if someone comes in and puts down £30 million on the table, £25 million, £30 million, do you resist it? Can you resist it? Do you have a safety net there? Have you already got someone in mind that you'd like to come in? And I'm sure the same can be said over at Ibrox. I think Morelos is so crucial to Rangers. If you take those goals out of the team, it's a huge deficit and a huge responsibility for somebody to come in and try and replace. And I'd have no doubt that they'll have someone in mind if they are accepting of an offer that's too big to turn around. I'm sure there'll be someone there, but there are no guarantees with anyone that you go out and bring in immediately, no matter how much money you spend.
Yeah. Just as a footnote before we go, Kieran Tierney, a former Celtic player, now moved to Arsenal, picked up a medal. I'm sure a number of us actually thought that he would struggle to win anything with Arsenal. He's gone there and won himself an FA Cup, Tam, no less, beating Chelsea in the final. Yep, and I'm absolutely delighted for the boy. I thought he took a lot of undeserved stick from sections of the Celtic fans, a small percentage, particularly on social media, who were giving him a bit of abuse for going to Arsenal, and I couldn't understand it. You know, he's going to a big club in Arsenal. You know, he's going to play an English Premiership, and he's getting 4 times his money. You know, he's getting a 5-year deal, 80 grand a week, and it's not just only securing himself for life; it's securing his mum and dad, his family, and that's a very, very difficult thing to turn down. So I'm delighted for him. I feel as if he's shut a few people up when going down there and winning a trophy, and I'm sure there's more to come because he's been very, very good since he's got himself back fit. I don't think his quality's ever been in doubt, just his fitness, and he can go on and be just as good or even better than Andy Robertson, in my opinion. Yeah. Here's what Mikel Arteta had to say after Arsenal lifted the FA Cup for the 14th time.
Big games require big moments for big plays, and he's delivered that in the semi-final, and he's done it again in the final. And that's why you ask about those players. Some of them were questioning that he could not do it in big games. There we go. It was a big part on delivering this trophy. So he's done it, and we are so proud to have a player like him in our squad. Yeah, just keeping him and adding to that squad could suddenly get people changing their mind about Arsenal. I'm one of them, Roughie. I looked at them and I thought,
they're always going to be just trying to get 5th and 6th and 7th for me now. But suddenly, Arteta seems to have changed the mindset.
Yeah, he's definitely got 2 boys up front that would cause anybody problems. I just think he needs big quality in the midfield. Obviously, the Ozil thing needs to be sorted out, but I think, as Tam said, the wee boy Tierney at the back has done everything we thought he would do, and all credit to him, because he went down there, and just because he came from Scotland, there was a lot of people ready to have a go at him. There was a lot of people doubting him that he couldn't do it, and the injury he picked up must have put added pressure onto him. But he's came into the team, and he's slowly but surely convincing people now that he is a player. And as Tam says, he'll get better, and he'll think he'll get better in a better Arsenal team. I think he'll really get strong. So we'll have to wait and see what they do in the pre-season.
Yeah, Gary has mentioned on Facebook that there's some good talent, young talent, emerging, not only in Scottish football, but obviously down south, especially. McTominay's there, Tierney's there, Billy Gilmore's there, Tam. All of these players we hope suddenly just gel at the right time for us to see a Scotland side finally break that duck of qualifying for a major finals.
Yep, I think it's a really exciting time to be a Scotland fan. As you said, you just mentioned some of the names there: McTominay, Kieran Tierney, Andy Robertson, Billy Gilmore, who I think can be a superstar. I think he's an exceptional young player. And you've got guys like John McGinn as well in there doing well, Kenny McLean, all playing in English Premiership. So, listen, we just need to try and find a striker. We're really heavily reliant on Lee Griffiths. But if we can pull somebody else, maybe Big Boy McBurney, who has took a lot of stick off a lot of people, but he's done well with Sheffield United. Really finished in a high position, and he's scored a few goals. So maybe he can convince the doubters. But we just need to find a right back and a striker, and I think we'll be good to go.
Do you think we should bring back Stephen Fletcher?
I think so. I think Fletcher would do a job for Scotland.
He's at it, Tam.
He loves that one.
He knows you're his mate, so he really is. Welcome to my world, Tam. Listen, I'll tell you one thing though: don't rule out Stephen Fletcher, because people will be having a look at what he's doing. And the one thing I did actually want to mention to you all: don't forget that we have this Monday to Friday. If you are struggling at times and you go for a walk and you want to catch the podcast of the show is out there as well, Monday to Friday. You can hear while you're walking along Roughie coughing every 2 minutes. So it's always good to get a hold of that as well. But the podcast is out there. Just one little footnote just on that, Roughie. I noticed that Hearts still trying to keep a lid on the speculation with regards to Aaron Hickey. I'm sure a few people will be looking at that boy. I think they might look at it and say $1.5 million would take away a wee bit of the pain from possibly Thursday and beyond.
Yeah, I thought if he had a full season and a good Hearts side, he would have got better and better as the year went on. But obviously he started getting moved about all over the place. He picked up an injury. So, no, I think next year will be a big year for him. I think he'll mature the way Tierney and all the other ones have. The young boys seem to have so much confidence just now, but he's definitely one for the future.
Yep, as ever, I'm never able to finish this programme without some bit of news coming in, and that's down to one of our journalists, Cheryl, who's always on the case with us. And it's just a little bit of good news that's come out. The SFA welcomed back its president, Rod Petrie, after recovering from planned surgery. Rod resumes his presidency, having attended last week's joint response group meetings. And Rod himself is on record as saying he'd like to thank everybody who made contact, directly or indirectly, to pass on good wishes for my recovery. And that puts things in perspective, Roughie, because Rod, Tam knows Rod as well, Alison knows him. It's a situation where it's only a game. It's football. It's a sport. It's a sport that we love. It's nice to see Rod getting back to full health.
Yep, I would agree with that. It's very good to have people like that who are in a big club. I always think it's good to have people who make big decisions at their club making big decisions at that level. So, welcome him back. Yep, good guy.
Yeah, it was just about 3 or 4 seconds of a pause there, Tam. I thought he was actually going to say, no, I'm not happy with it, but he was happy with it. Yeah, good to see Rod back, and best wishes from everyone on the Football Show. Well, that's Monday taken care of. I'm just going to show you the Premiership table to let you see exactly where your club stands at the moment. Will it remain that way? Celtic at the top with a goal difference of +3 on the chasing pack. They're at the top, which is where they finished at the end of last season. How's it all going to change as Scottish football tries to get back to some form of normality? As you can see there, if your club's still struggling to get off the mark, there's a long, long way to go. This one is a marathon, to be perfectly honest with you, Alison. There's a few twists and turns. There'll be a few heads rolling, I think, before we get out of 2020. What do you think?
Would be disappointed if there weren't any twists and turns. That's what we want. We want intrigue, and we want to see a bit of drama, and we want to see more than anything a bit of competition. Yeah, it's a huge season. I think we all know Celtic are going to go for the 10 Rangers challenges to stop it, but it would be nice if there was a fair bit of competition along the way there, and you can really see it. It got very exciting at one point last year, just between November and December, and it'd be nice if that was sustained for a while, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. For 1 minute there, Tam, I thought Alison was saying, yes, it would be nice to see some heads roll before January.
She's got a few quid and a few managers to get billeted.
I mean, I don't know about you, Tam. I spoke to a couple of Rangers fans who were in fixing my bathroom, and I said to them, does your manager get the sack if he doesn't win the league? And they're like, no, stick by him.
Listen, I speak to a lot of Rangers fans as well, and they're well behind Steven Gerrard. They say the same. They want to give him another year. They just want to see progress in terms of where Rangers are going. And if they see progress again this season, a lot of the fans would give him another year. But Steven Gerrard himself might walk away. He might think he's failed, coming up here and going 3 seasons without winning the league or possibly even a trophy. He might think to himself, it's time to move on and go somewhere else. But the Rangers fans, certainly the ones I speak to, a lot of my friends as well, they're right behind Gerrard. And even if Celtic did win 10 in a row, they would want to see him as long as they see improvement on the park.
There's a talking point for Tuesday. Lots to talk about. We'll discuss Ross County against Motherwell and the performance of both sides. We'll see how each manager describes the aftermath of that match. Enjoy your football. We can't get out to games, but we will keep you right up to date with interviews, special interviews as well, prizes galore, and lots of things to keep you entertained. We've got unique video content there. We've got all the news at your fingertips on the app as well. Do download the PLZ Soccer app if you get the chance, and don't forget, like, share and follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. From Roughie, Alison, Tam and myself, Peter Martin, Scottish football is back. We are loving it. Just one more game to go to complete the first round of fixtures, and then we're right into next week. Bring it on. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit Arnold Clark